but that's it. Diving for it, Monk. Curry thought about three. He'll put up a three. There it is! Number 4,000! A shot for the ages from a player for the ages.
That's a nice round number for Steph Curry. Obviously, he already held the record, so he'll be the first to 4,001 also, and all the others. But I get that they like the round number. So Steph, look, he has been blazing his own trail since he came out of Davidson in 2009. Four-time champ, two-time MVP, the 4,000 threes, one of 30 players with 25,000 points. By the way, today is his 37th birthday. And so Shaquille O'Neal yesterday on Inside the NBA used the word GOAT in the conversation.
You know, the way he plays the game, how he plays the game. You know, I mentioned on our show that should at least put his name in the conversation. You know,
what conversation? Say it.
Of the greatest player ever to play the game. You know, I like the way he plays. Definitely changed the game because of him. Because of him, the last 3-4 years, everybody has been running three-man weave at the top of the key. Every team is shooting threes, and they want to blame it on analytics. It's because everybody wanted to beat the Golden State Warriors because of this guy.
So there are a lot of different ways we can take that conversation, whether he is the greatest player of all time, whether he is even the greatest player of his time, whether he's the most impactful player. Let me just start, Tim Legler, by your reaction. When you hear Shaq say that, what's the first thing that enters your mind?
I don't think it's nuts because of the impact that Curry's had. Here's what I'll say about Steph Curry, Greeny. No player in the history of this league or the history of the sport has ever made defenses more accountable for their whereabouts every second. I mean, Steph Curry, the amount of offense that Steph Curry has created without touching the basketball is really unparalleled in this league. And so for me, when you talk about impact on other players and making other players on your team better, in addition to the stats and the winning and everything else that he has done, I don't think it's crazy. He's a revolutionary player. And I think that's kind of what it takes to get into that conversation. Now, for me personally, I ultimately think it's a two-man debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And you can make your case for one of those two guys, whatever side of that argument you fall on. I'm an MJ guy. I think a lot of people know that. But you could certainly, obviously, it's a legitimate debate with LeBron. Steph Curry, because of the unique nature of his impact and the way he has affected the league and his impact on how you have to guard him, for me, I don't think it's crazy. He's also got 4 titles, 2 MVPs. You need those things on your resume to get into that conversation. You can make an argument for him. Ultimately, though, I think it would still come down to LeBron and Michael Jordan.
I would throw into this conversation, and anyone who watched that game, I defy you to disagree with me. The United States was going to lose the gold medal game to France this year if Steph Curry did not go absolutely crazy in the last few minutes, knocking down some of the most remarkable and dramatic shots that you've ever seen in your life. And you can say, oh, it's only the Olympics. Well, in that case, I think it mattered a lot. To the Americans, I think winning the Olympic gold is not nearly as big a deal as losing is. And we were going to lose that game if Steph had not gone nuts. If you watch that game, you know what I'm talking about. I believe that factors into this conversation somewhere.
Yeah, greatest of all time, though, I'm with Legs. It's Jordan and LeBron because of the two-sided impact. But how about this? George Mikan is a guy that nobody really talks about, but he changed the game. The key was small. He was unstoppable. They had to extend the key out because he was under the basket. You couldn't guard him. He impacted the game, changed the game, literally. I think the best compliment to give Steph Curry, he changed the way we play basketball.
I would say you're not going back far enough. So people will say Steph is one of one. He has impacted the game, and there's never been anyone like him. Oh, you're over here. Let me talk to you for a moment. He is one of one in basketball history. What he is the Babe Ruth of basketball. And let me present for you some statistics. When Babe Ruth started playing in 1920, there were 630 home runs hit in Major League Baseball in that entire season. In 1934, which was Babe Ruth's last season, there were 1,344 home runs hit, which means more than double. The number of home runs that were hit in the sport more than doubled because of Babe Ruth. Let me take that to Steph Curry. In his rookie year, NBA teams were averaging 18.1 three-point attempts per game. 18, let's call it to make it a nice round number. Do you know what they're averaging this year? 37.5. More than double the number of threes because of Steph Curry. That's what Steph Curry has done. He has changed the way the game of basketball is played in the way Babe Ruth changed the way the game of baseball was played forever. Now, that is not to say he's the greatest player of all time. Those are entirely different conversations, and let's face it, they are purely subjective. Let's have an objective conversation. Steph Curry has changed the way basketball is played. That, I think, is beyond debate.
The Sultan of Swish.
The Sultan of Swish. Now, there's a whole other question that we can have, and I'm afraid to have it around Tim Legler, because Tim Legler is one of the great three-point shooters of all time. So I'm afraid of offending his sensibility when I take it to the question of the change in the game that Steph has authored. Has it actually been good for the game? The Boston Celtics, I wanted to get into this a lot yesterday, and we just got sidetracked with a bunch of other things. But the Boston Celtics don't do anything but shoot threes. They took 63 of them in their loss to Oklahoma City the other night. That was a big spotlight game on ESPN, NBA Finals preview. They took 63 threes. They did not make a two-point shot in the first quarter of that game. Now, when they make these threes, they tend to win a lot. When they miss them, they become very vulnerable. But the question is this I say this as one who loves the sport. Basketball was my first love. Basketball was the reason I fell in love with sports in the first place. Basketball remains, in my opinion, the best game to watch. Of all of the sports, it is the best one to watch. And I would argue that watching the Boston Celtics play that night, watching one guy play iso ball and four other guys standing around the three-point line just waiting for a double and a switch and kick it out, kick it, and take a three, that is, I found that difficult to watch. And if that is the impact that has been had on the game, I think it is a conversation worthy of having. And you are seeing some of that right here. Tim Legler, I know this is your area of expertise. What were your thoughts as you watched that game the other night?
Oh, yeah, listen, I'm watching that game and I'm saying to myself, the Boston Celtics are not winning a championship if they continue to shoot threes at this rate. You can't miss 43 threes in a game and expect to beat good teams. The problem they're going to run into, and really when you look at the Boston Celtics, the only thing that matters is the measuring stick in this league, which is Cleveland and OKC. Those are the two teams they're going to have to beat. And those two teams make those shots contested. Those are much more difficult shots against those teams. So if you want to take 40, okay, a lot of teams in this league take 40 or the low 40s on a given night. You start getting up 48, 50, 52, 55, 63 threes against those teams, your percentages are not going to be good enough to give yourself a chance to win. I just feel like it became so monotonous what they were doing offensively. Like I said, they can beat a lot of bad teams. They're going to have a very difficult time beating the two teams that we're talking about in order to repeat. And that's really what this comes down to. They are going to play the Cleveland Cavaliers in the conference finals. I will be shocked if they do not. And most likely, if they're able to survive the Cleveland series, you get OKC in the finals. No team in this league covers the three-point line and contests the three-point line the way OKC does. So you're not going to give yourself enough of a chance to be efficient if those are the numbers that you're putting up there from the three-point line.
That's fair enough. That's true. That's yes, and that's one conversation. The video there was not one player standing inside the three-point line in that last play that we just showed you. Not one player standing physically inside. Well, I guess Derek White is out of bounds, but outside of that, there's no one standing inside the three-point. Where is? Look at this.
It is Mike D'Antoni's dream. This is the spread offense in the NBA. This is what he really brought to the league in 2004 with the 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns. He loves this kind of offense because it is different. Now, some of these shots we're showing, the step back from Tatum, those are rhythm shots. He was clearly not in rhythm. You know when this gets ugly? When they miss 22 threes in the second half. But let's remember, to say they can't win a championship playing this way, they literally did last year. 50% of their field goal attempts in the finals against the Mavericks were threes. They're outscoring teams by over 15 points a game from three-point range. That's what they're doing, just literally from the three-point shot. They are arrogantly defiant about this approach. This is how they believe they can win. They did it last year. They're taking it to another level this year. And I still have to see a team that can outscore them from two, because 33% from three is equal to 50% from two. So you can have all the layups you want, you can have all the putbacks you want, but we will devastate you with three-point shots. And they've done it.
It's simple math. We're not disagreeing on this front at all. It feels like something that needed to be said. All right.